So guys, welcome to another episode of Digital Coach. Today I am joined by the awesome and, basically knowledgeable John Sinclair. Hi John, how's it going?
Good. How are you doing, bud?
Good. It's been a while, right?
It has been a while.
When was the last time we spoke? It's got to be a few years, I think.
For sure, yeah, probably a few years. And it's been probably like 3 or 4 since we last had a whiskey together.
Yeah. The weird thing is, for those of you that are just listening to this now, is met John 2012, I believe, through the Institute of Motion, where he is the programming director for IOM and also Viper Pro. But also we did kind of one of these, I don't know if you remember, it's got to be back in 2000, maybe 14, around your business model of kind of group training and how you kind of, invented, I guess, we'd not seen it before here, the kind of element of where you can train a lot more people at the same time. So I'm hugely excited to kind of hear what you've been doing. So how's it going anyway with regards to the current crisis?
Yeah, it's been definitely different. I moved since we last spoke. I had already moved down to Florida, but since we had done the group coaching thing, I was living in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. I now live in Sunrise, Florida, USA. And things are pretty different down here than back home in Canada. Number one is obviously the population density. So the United States has obviously been hit harder than Canada has been. But a lot of the same, I would venture to say, a lot of the same precautions are being taken all around North America. We had to close down our gym. So I have a gym called Hive Performance. And we had to close it down in Davie, just like everybody else did. And I had to shift all my business to primarily either virtual coaching and or going to a park and or going to my garage. And so I have a garage gym. I'm sitting in my garage right now, but I have a garage gym here where I've taken about 50% of my clientele are coming to the garage still. And then the other 50% are doing it virtually. So those folks that wanted to take bigger precautions and wanted to stay at home and stuff. So the groups that I do have with me today that come into my garage, they're the same folks that I've been training forever, and we make sure that they stay quarantined and they stay within their little groups, that we're not out transmitting this virus if we don't know where one person's going and stuff like that. So I have had a few referrals, but it's been going good. In fact, April of this past April was my busiest month since January of 2019.
Wow. So you've actually seen growth through this time period, which is really kind of refreshing, I guess, because the majority of trainers that we've seen and spoke to are obviously really struggling. The camera's just frozen. I hope are you still on the line? Hey, John. Oh, bit of a technical error. Yeah, no problem at all, man. So we've changed locations. That doesn't matter. That's coronavirus, right? Extremely long hair, hats, and internet. Are you all set there?
I got you now.
Cool. No problem. So I think you were mentioning about Hive and obviously going into your garage. Can you just tell us a bit more about kind of what you do at Hive anyway? Because I know that obviously I've seen some of the stuff, some of the awesome movement stuff and the tennis players, etc. Just to give the guys listening to this a bit of background.
Yeah, so my business partner, Andy Hive, who's from Ireland, we basically built Hive Performance and Wellness and Health Coaching, really about trying to create a cooperative for coaches to be able to come in and run their businesses out of it. Well, it just so happened that I think the way we designed the facility and our network down here in South Florida, that it became kind of a refuge for not only coaches that wanted to build their business, but also for helping develop amateur and professional athletes. And so we spend a lot of time, me primarily as a coach there, I spend a lot of time doing return to sport for athletes that have been injured, as well as progressing them and helping them through their developmental path through sport. And so we look at taking them through a more I would like to say like more of a path of engineering and engineering their performance over time based on obviously biology and psychology and biomechanics and things like that.
Yeah.
But it's really driven around trying to create a space at the Hive so that coaches can be successful with their clientele, whatever that might be. And then also trying to create a community where we have lots of young athletes coming in and kind of taking their sport to the next level by just supporting their developmental process.
Okay. And so I guess, you know, it would be great to chat about the digital element, because that's where we're kind of, you know, obviously feeling that some of the trainers are really struggling. So how is your kind of business now transitioned to offering it online? Were you already doing it, or have you kind of pivoted recently?
Yeah, I wasn't doing any of it at all. And now I'm doing about 50% of my clientele are all on digital. And so what was really interesting about it was the idea of saying to some athletes, hey, you're going to continue your program. We're just going to do it over the screen. And they're like, okay. And so it wasn't a hard sell. It wasn't me talking. In fact, I had one conversation with a parent who was like, you know what, I just don't think the kids can train anymore. I don't think they should come and see you during this time. I said, fair enough. How about I give you some of my equipment that I have in the garage? We set up your garage so that you have your own garage gym. And then we'll stream and we'll meet over the computer, and I'll give them the program. We'll do the demonstrations and they'll follow the program. He goes, that sounds awesome. Yeah, let's do that. So the kids came over and grabbed some excess equipment that I had laying around, you know, bands and barbells and stuff like that, loaded up their truck, told them how to set it all up. And then I just set up my tripod with my phone on it. I use Apple TV and stream from my phone to a bigger screen in the garage just so I can see them a little bit bigger. And it's no different. Like being on a 2-dimensional screen is not any different than 3-dimensional. The only thing is if you need to do a demonstration, you just turn it a 45-degree angle so they can see kind of the whole bits of it, and away you go. And so the coaching environment is, while you're not right there with them, for me, I'm a coach that doesn't do a lot of hands-on. I don't say a lot. I set up the environment. Here's the drill. Here's your starting position. Here's how it's going to look like at the end. You're going to do it for 30 seconds. Are you ready? Yep, go.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And then I turn around after that and I said, okay, here's one thing I need you to focus on for this next set. Ready? Go. Boom. And that's it. And I just kick back and watch. And so it's been kind of rewarding because it's shifted our thought process of what needs to happen in a personal training or coaching setting, right? Where I've got to be there with you and I got to make sure that you're safe. And I mean, if you set your drill up so that they're going to be safe and they have good rhythm and timing in their movements, and you're teaching them about how to not burst their bubble and stay within a bubble that maintains that rhythm and timing. I mean, we don't necessarily need to be right beside them all the time. And I think more coaches are going to start to understand that and feel confident in delivering that experience. And I think that's going to be a massive kick to the fitness industry.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I mean, I guess from speaking to quite a lot of trainers this last 4 weeks, some of them are in the kind of freeze element. They just don't know where to start. And it seems like obviously you just straight away looked at solving a problem. The athlete didn't have much equipment. You provided that equipment, which is really kind of eye-opening. And what I'm finding with trainers at the moment is obviously they're so used to going to a facility and seeing a squat rack, a lat pull down, and just thinking, oh, I'm going to use those, rather than actually thinking about what are they passionate about, what does the client need. That's where there seems to be a bit of a divide. And then the second point that most trainers are kind of struggling with is they're just not seeing it. It's really strange. They kind of just, no, I don't understand how you're training someone then through the screen. But it's so refreshing to hear kind of how you've just said that it's pretty much the same, just your coaching cues are maybe slightly different. Did you have any backlash from clients?
No, I had one client who was like, I don't know if that'll work. And I was like, okay, fair enough. Here's what I'll do. I'll send you your program, do the program, all of that. If you have any questions, just contact me, And so I had like a couple clients that were like, yeah, I don't know if that environment's really right for me. No problem. That's okay.
Yeah.
But what I would say to the coaches that are kind of freezing and the trainers that aren't quite sure what to do, the first thing that I try to tell other coaches is that people aren't hiring you for exercise. They're not hiring you to change their body. They're hiring you because that on the onset may look that way, but they're staying with you because this is a relationship business. You have a relationship with them. And the coaching experience is about a relationship. The transaction that happens is the communication through movement. And that's it.
Totally.
And so movement itself is really the conduit of where that communication relationship transaction takes place. So when we're looking at coaching somebody through that, really, it doesn't matter what the equipment is, right?
Yeah.
It matters that you still maintain the same things that you have in a coaching environment, which is, how was your day today? What'd you do at school? What'd you learn?
Yeah.
Tell me one thing that you learned at school today. Okay, let's do that squat again. Do you know what I mean? And so when we have that transaction and that experience where people just think that it's, oh yeah, it's just like, John, I'm over at the Hive training.
Yeah.
That's pretty much what we're doing. The only difference is it's happening through a different medium. And the second thing I would say to, in terms of getting folks thinking a little bit about more of the relationship side of things, is just think of the simplest things that you would do from a movement perspective that you could feel that you could transition through this medium.
Yeah.
And have fun with it. It doesn't have to be perfect, right? Yeah. So if you set it up where, hey, we're going to teach a squat, and you turn around and you have your butt facing the camera, right? Have fun with it. And then turn around and go, oh, I'm sorry, my butt was in your face, right?
Yeah.
And if you keep it light and enjoyable and it just becomes something that feels authentic, then you're going to have success with it. But as soon as you feel like you've got the blinders on and you have to feel confined by the professional standards that fitness gyms expected us to behave under, you're going to really struggle with it. Yep. So the best part is just be yourself, have fun with it, and just try to create an environment that they're going to love, which means find some movements that they really truly love doing and build your programming around that.
Yeah, totally agree. I mean, one of the trainers that works at Number One Fitness, yesterday was actually saying, I'm not sure I want to go back. I've become a professional at doing, virtual training. And I just thought, you know what, it's interesting just to see their progressions of how they've changed coaching. Some of our clients have got better results through this pandemic than they did the last 2 years, And I think,
amazing,
like you said, the movement side of things is where I guess some of the trainers need to really focus on. Your toolbox, if your toolbox is just exercises, you're soon going to run out because you're not going to have that lat pull down. But if you go back to the client's goals of, I want to be stronger at pulling and pushing, what can we do? And that's where maybe the divide is. But I want to dive into, you mentioned that this is April was one of the biggest months since 2019. Tell us what is the business model, as much as you'd like to share, obviously, but how have you gone about that?
Well, because most of my clientele are athletes, I'm down here in South Florida, and all these athletes, they participate in one sport. So if you're a baseball player, you only play baseball. If you're a tennis player, you only play tennis. Well, in South Florida, you can do that 365 days a year. In fact, there's 3 baseball seasons. Like when I was growing up, there was one and it was 4 months long because that's all you could play in the spring, and then it snowed, and then we moved on to hockey in Canada, right? Yeah. And so it's crazy down here that there's so many different seasons that they play year round. So number one, the first thing that helped, because that was my clientele, was no more sport seasons. So they're not playing their sport, so they're available to train. School shut down. They're not hampered by having to go to school. So now they have an opportunity to break away from their school, do a training session, and then go back to school. So availability was much higher because I'm constantly juggling schedules between their practices, their games, their training, maybe with a sports skill coach, right? Like I've got a baseball catcher session I have to do. So therefore I can't come train with you today, John. So I just had a massive inventory of clientele that were like, I got to keep going. So that was
Yeah.
the number one thing, was just the availability of the athletes.
Yeah.
But then as a result of it, I actually started getting a lot of referrals because the people were like, wow, this is kind of cool. Like that I could do this. I was like, yeah, why don't you do it once a week? And so, do you have a friend? Do it with a friend or do it with your husband. And then let's get going. So I just kept asking people for referrals. Who do you know that would like this kind of medium? It's kind of cool. You're not going to your gym anyways. You don't need any equipment. We'll do body weight stuff. Let's do it. And they're
Yeah.
like,
Gosh.
yeah, it sounds fun. So it's been really good that way, and that I've been getting this many referrals, and then kids that are just like, yeah, that was awesome. That's pretty fun. I'm gonna get my brothers to join in,
Yeah.
And then so now I've instead of training one person at a time, I'm training 2 or 3 people at a time, all of the same family.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, that's interesting. And then are you creating packages for them? Are you selling like blocks of sessions? How does that kind of relate to the virtual world?
Yeah, so I never discounted anything.
Yeah.
So I didn't say to them, oh, well, it's virtual and you're not coming to the gym, so it's going to be this much. I didn't get dumber because of COVID. So
Yeah.
my value is exactly the same, me coaching you here versus coaching on the floor. So when I had one parent say, well, because it's virtual, is it cheaper? I said, no. But if you wanted him to do 2 sessions a week instead of 1 session a week for the same price, we go half an hour at a time. He's like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, cool. So now I'm starting to run some half an hour sessions, which are half the cost of what my
Yeah.
1 hour is. So it didn't change my value of time,
Yeah.
right? And then I'm like, but we're going to get after it. So here's your warm up. You have to do that prior to me getting on the call with you. And then we take you through that. And then you're going to do your recovery on your own. So that half an hour is going to be the bulk of our working unit and what our goal is for that day. So we're only going to focus on one goal that day, and then we're going to go after it.
Yeah.
So if it's a power day, we might do all bodyweight plyometrics that day. Or if it's strength day, grab your dad's dumbbells because we're doing some strength stuff with dumbbells that day, and we're going to do it for a 30-minute block. So yeah.
And how have they been? Have they been successful in the 30 minutes?
Yeah, actually really successful. And I'm enjoying it too, because you have a lot more energy. Like sometimes dragging it out over an hour can get tiresome if you're doing them back to back to back. But just having that change in client every 30 minutes has been working out really well.
That's interesting. Yeah, the average session on Remote Coach is 34 minutes. So I definitely see in the data, obviously, has been showing that there is an option to do 30-minute workouts. That's another thing. Some of the trainers seem to be thinking, oh, I don't want to be behind my phone for an hour. And I'm like, you don't need to, and who said it needs to be a phone? Just start kind of adapting. So, okay, so you mentioned you haven't discounted, but do the majority of your clients anyway pay you in like blocks of 10 sessions, or is it like I pay you per month and every month, or do you have a mix?
Yeah, I have a mix. I've got some that will pay session at a time. Those people aren't usually coming as frequently, but the clients that are coming more frequently, they'll buy a certain number of sessions or total dollar value, and then I just deduct from their package. Yeah,
makes sense. Okay, cool. And the main, obviously, marketing you then said was asking for referrals, which, again, I think some of the trainers really shy away from. But with regards to how does your working day look like then at the moment, and how do you kind of get started? Do you start at a certain time with the clients? And you mentioned obviously some of them do warm-ups beforehand. What about a group setting? Is it groups during the day and one-to-ones in the mornings or anything like that?
I just have always worked in the 25 years of doing this. I've always just worked by appointment. So I just know when I'm going to train. And then while I'm trying to schedule them, I'll give them usually an option of 1 or 2 times so that I can consolidate my time a little bit. That way I'm not, it's over 90 degrees here. So being in a garage without air conditioning for 90 degrees sometimes gets exhausting. It feels like 4 sessions is like 8 or 10, And so I try to consolidate them into a kind of a little block so that I can do my consulting for 7 movements and IOM and Viper Pro at one part of the day, or do some studying at one part of the day. And then the other part is doing some coaching. And so I just kind of try to balance it out from day to day, but I'm typically doing anywhere from 4 to 5 sessions a day. of coaching.
Yeah. And how do you foresee that kind of changing as the gyms kind of reopen now? I'm not sure what it's like, obviously, in the States, especially, you know, Florida, but here in the UK, you know, the gyms will start to be, we hope, opening up from the middle of July. But we have already been told that, you know, the foreseeable future will have still, you know, social distancing. So, for instance, our PT studios will have a certain amount of trainers in at any one time. You know, mainstream gyms won't be able to have treadmill, or spin bike. You know, what do you kind of see the landscape of fitness, you know, even in your area, looking like in the future?
Yeah, I think they're going to get hit pretty hard. The bigger clubs are going to get hit really hard. I've been saying this actually before COVID-19. I've been saying that the fitness industry needs to change their model of how they're operating, because they're trying to operate on the same premise that's happened forever, which is on a membership-based model. And now that the people that love exercise are the people that go to the gym.
Yeah.
Right? The people that don't like to exercise don't go to the gym because there's no product there available to them that makes them feel comfortable and safe and makes them feel successful. So here's the problem. All the programming, and because I spend most of my time in the programming world, all the programming for health and fitness is driven and geared towards those folks that already love exercise.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. You've eliminated their environment to go get exercise. They still love exercise. They're going to do it on their own.
Yeah.
Right. And so what's going to happen is they're going to see a massive drop in membership because they're like, I went out and got some dumbbells. I can train from home now. Right. I don't really necessarily need that. Plus, the coach that I have a relationship with at that gym is coaching me from home.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And so I think it's going to be a massive destructive environment for the fitness industry, because now what you've done is you've now removed some of your equipment from there. So the ones that are also really, like, I went to a health club where they're like, no, that's my treadmill. Like, that's the one I want to use. Right. And I was like, well, they're all the same. No, but this is the one I use. Right. So you've got the fanatical people that'll go back, and if their equipment isn't there, right, they're going to leave and they're going to go find a new place. Yeah. So I think there's going to be a big challenge to the fitness industry. They're going to have to rethink how they drive revenue. And I think you're going to see the fitness industry move towards more of a service model. Yeah. You know, where, you know, it's a pay to play kind of game. It's a drop-in game, right? You're going to get this much access for this much money. Right. And I think that's what's going to happen for you and I that have personal training studios. I think will be a little bit different because we're already service-based to begin with. At least we are. Yeah. And I think that will continue to keep driving people to those areas. And it's also going to create opportunity for us to develop coaches that want to be in their own environment. And so I think there hasn't been much loyalty between big fitness club chains and their clientele. I know of only one really big fitness chain down here in the US that actually continued to pay a lot of their workers. And where everyone else is just thinking bankruptcy.
Yeah, crazy. I think 25% is the number I saw last with regards to how much won't be coming back of the gym chains. I think it all started out to be kind of not taken too seriously anyway here in the UK, you know, and now obviously it's a case of, oh shit, this could be going on for another 18 months while we get a vaccine or whatever. You know, we need to still be kind of safe. So it's going to be interesting, but I think diving back into what trainers could be doing, like you mentioned, you know, if you don't have that gym that you can go to work out with and get your 50, 40, 30 sessions a week, what are you going to do? You know, and like you've mentioned, is there a way that you can facilitate the clients that you had anyway training at home? You know, if you were seeing a client 4 times per week in the gym, maybe you'll have to only see them twice a week or once a week in the gym and then the rest at home. What about with regards to programming? Because I know that it's a big thing that's, you know, a lot of trainers still don't get, and obviously you've been doing it for many years. Is there any kind of tips and tricks that you can kind of give to some of the guys that are even just starting out virtually?
Yeah, the first thing I would say is try not to get your clients to do your workout, right? So Instagram is being flooded with people that are just putting up random workouts and saying, hey, follow my workout. While that can be beneficial, it's not going to have any long-term success because most people aren't going to follow what you're doing. Here's the common denominator. Most people aren't like us weirdos. Like us people in the fitness industry and in the coaching industry, we're weird. We love to work out. Most people don't like doing it. They do it because they have to and they know they need to. So really programming needs to be about customizing that experience for your clientele. Now, if you have a whole bunch of athletes that are your clientele like mine, you could probably get away with it. But I'm guessing for most people that are starting out, you need to start slower. High intensity interval training, high intensity steady state training is not sustainable for any human on this planet. So you'll see these people are going to start to burn out. High end athletes, they burn out all the time. World-class athletes and people that do steady state activity and ultra endurance stuff, they have a low mortality rate. So the programming that the fitness industry has been under for so long, and it has created so much popularity in high intensity interval training and high intensity steady state training. Now I should say those are two separate things, but high intensity interval gets lumped in with high intensity steady state, like Tabata. Tabata is not interval training. High intensity steady state training. So when you're trying to program for the client and not for what looks sexy and not for what looks hard, because what's happening is now you will actually distinguish yourself from the path of all the other people that are trying to do that. And you need to start customizing programming experiences that are driven around health and not fitness.
I think that's the main thing, isn't it? The health element, and like you mentioned, two things there, health and fun. A lot of the people that are stuck at home, they're just, that session that they may be having with you, the trainer, is their highlight of the day. So making it fun and not just doing something that you're interested in at that moment is going to be crucial. With regards to, though, obviously, you've run a successful business for, God knows how many years. For those guys that are really struggling to even understand how to maybe do some sort of marketing, do you foresee that as you now go into having the studio back open and also having the online back, is there a certain marketing element you'll be looking at?
It's funny that you say that, because since we opened up the Hive, we haven't done a single day of marketing in like 4.5 years. We're going to make that 100% referral base and based on the coaches bringing folks in, right? And so, for me, for my personal business, when I moved down here to Florida, I didn't have a single client. I worked for a health club, a big tennis club actually. And then when I quit that, I had to figure out how I was going to be able to sustain any sort of business. And I just started massaging some referral networks. And what I mean by massaging, like, hey, who do you know that? And start working that relationship bit, right? And so really in my entire years of coaching, I've never like actively gone out and done any marketing. Maybe 2 months ago was the first time I ever put my own website together. And that was just as a way to get people that are referring others to go to a destination to actually learn about me, because it's too hard for me to explain to my clients what I do. So the website and landing page was really important. But in terms of marketing, where we think we're going to go is we're going to change our model a little bit. And we're going to try to direct more programs as opposed to directing membership. And so while we'll have programs that have certain memberships tied to it or certain service fees tied to it, that's how we're going to start marketing and having a marketing person help drive that. And I think that's the way that we're going to try to approach it, as opposed to just, because we'll be one gym amongst a whole bunch of gyms that are going to be opening up at the same time. But to try to differentiate your service, the goal is really going to be about how do we capture people that are interested in wanting to return to a gym when perhaps they may not be wanting to return to a gym. So is there going to be some sort of, all right, well, you're going to come in here for one group class, and then our coaches are going to do some online coaching for you and digital coaching as well. And so that might be where we have to go, because as you have to do with everything, the market's going to dictate what your service is going to be.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I think it just I think it's an opportunity. I think it's really exciting. I think it's accelerated what was kind of coming anyway. And so, we're seeing it at Number One Fitness. We're seeing that we've got clients that moved to India. This was this week, moved to India. Hey guys, seen you've been doing online classes. Can I join in? Yeah.
That's
great
awesome
to hear from you.
Yeah.
Right? So suddenly you've got a client base that has no geographical barriers. If you want to train your family members that you've not lived with for 10 years, you can do it. And I think that's where the trainers are kind of struggling, thinking, God, that client goes to my gym. How am I going to, and even just as simple as asking, like you said, that referral side of things. Cool. So with regards to kind of programming as well, obviously, you're doing, or have been for many years, doing programming for IOM and Viper Pro. Do you want to kind of just tell us a bit more about that as well? Because that'll kind of give the trainers a bit more background, and also they can obviously head over to see more about that as well.
Yeah, so I've been working as the director of programming for IOM since its inception, kind of. I mean, we, at the Institute of Motion, we've been developing curriculum and content and education for personal trainers since, I believe, 2010 or 2011. And over the course of the years, we would host mentorships, and we would host education workshops where people would come in and learn about our kind of philosophy of how we develop programming and and help people understand the true function of the human body. What that evolved into, though, and I'm going to fast forward quite a ways over, is that we're now shifted into the health business. So IOM is really focused on helping create health coaches, and so we developed a whole curriculum on how to be a health coach. So you can get it right on your phone. Our app is called Platform by the Institute of Motion, or Platform by IOM. And you can now become a certified health coach through us. We created 198 different lessons on how to become a health coach. We basically wrote a textbook on health coaching and put it in a digital environment so that you could watch it from your phone. And so they're 5-minute little lessons that you can start to learn. And after every time you're done a course, you're given a certificate of completion for that particular course. So that's one thing that we did. And now we've even moved into informing governments on how to create a preventative health model. So we're working with the government of Singapore right now on changing their next 50 years of health through sport and through physical activity. And so that, of course, has been a massive behavioral change model that we've had to introduce into health coaching, because, as we know, psychology governs everything that we do. So we had to really tap in all our strategies, from changing infrastructure to changing accessibility, collaboration with the Ministry of Health, with physicians and doctors, and then creating an ecosystem of health. And it's kind of being driven through sport. So that's been a really cool project. We're about, I think we're on our 3rd year of doing that right now. And so that continues, which is pretty cool. And that's where most of our energy and focus has been, is delivering that for folks.
And is there any data attached on that? Can I just jump on the Singapore, for example, stuff, because I mean, in my head, there's just so many things, synergies with what's going on now. Trainers that are just used to doing, I've frozen again. For trainers that are just used to giving a workout, making their clients sweaty, to the other end of the spectrum, talking about behavior change, getting that client in a healthier mindset, healthier body. There's so many synergies with what trainers should be looking at, I hope, during this time. But with regards to kind of digital and data, was there anything said, or is there anything said with regards to kind of what you've learned in Singapore, with regards to wearable technology or anything like that?
Yeah, we started finding out that over time, people were more apt to want to use fitness trackers and things like that to help guide them. And then I started even experimenting with using MyZone. And what is interesting from a behavioral standpoint is the goals that you set for yourselves in there, how you kind of become dependent on making sure that you hit those goals, which is fantastic. The only challenge is if you don't really feel like doing something that day, right? You kind of feel guilted into kind of doing it. So we've heard stories of people like that are marching on the spot to get their steps at the end of their bed before the end of the night.
Shaking
so
their arms.
Right. And so that's pretty crazy that from a behavioral standpoint, that becomes our reason for exercise. And so with big fitness trackers like that kind of focus on the end game or the end goal, what we've done at 7 Movements, which is a company I started in Canada, we decided that, well, it's more important because the data suggests it's more important that you move over smaller doses more frequently throughout the day than if you did one big one at the end of the day and you've been sedentary all day long. So at 7 Movements, we create specific strategies driven to change an outcome. So the programming is all driven around a particular outcome, but we do it in 7 minutes.
Okay.
And so you do one movement for 1 minute over 7 minutes or 7 different movements, and they're driven in micro doses. And so what we did is we captured a completely different market. We captured the market of, the 85% that don't exercise at all. Right? And said to them, if you're in a sedentary environment, we're going to have you do this program for 7 minutes at a time and prescribe it 3 to 4 times a day. And that actually changes your health outcomes. And so all the research is supporting that those people that are do smaller bouts more frequently throughout the day end up with better long-term health outcomes than the person that goes 3 hours a week to a gym or a personal trainer and works their ass off for an hour, and then they're sitting back on their butt. Guess what? That person has the same long-term health outcomes as a sedentary couch potato.
Yeah.
So we said we need to shift our model. We need to shift our model. So we've been blowing up with 7 Movements right now. In fact, 2 weeks ago, we were selected by an organization called Prescription to Get Active to be the first prescriptive exercise pill, if you will, or movement pill that will be prescribed by physicians directly to their patients that have some sort of health outcome that they need to be changed. So if you have diabetes or heart disease or just high cholesterol, you have an option. You could take Lipitor or you could take 7 Movements. And so we're aiming to have, their goal is to have 1 million prescriptions in the next 3 years handed out of 7 Movements. So it's fantastic. And so we've developed a program where it's a Kickstarter program. It's basically driven around behavior change. And it's driven around us just getting people moving just a tiny little bit in what we're terming microdosing. So we're microdosing a prescription of movement, just like you would open up the pill. You're not going to take the whole thing of pills like you would if you went and saw a personal trainer the first time. You're just going to take one little microdose, and we're going to do it frequently throughout the day and attach behavior to it so that people now are starting to have a consumable option of movement that they could do anywhere. And we've done it through digital. And we did it digital. So you're not live with somebody. In fact, you just press play and you just follow me along. It's monkey see, monkey do. So you just watch me move and you just mirror.
Is it live? Or is there an option for live, or is it just pre-recorded?
We have an option that's going to be available where people have the ability to become a 7 Movements coach. And then now you become a health coach with us that attaches to that program. So let's say that you've enrolled in that program, but you need ongoing support and ongoing coaching. Then you enroll with one of our 7 Movement coaches.
Brilliant. Yeah, I mean, do you know what? The microdosing, I love the way you called it microdosing. The mini sessions, as we called them before, I think that there is a future in that. I had Anna Woods on here. She's the founder of She Strength, and they focus a lot on online. She's been doing it for about 4 years, and she just mentioned that the kind of the mums that she was working with just didn't have time to do an hour workout. So it was a 20-minute strength workout in the morning, something at lunchtime, something in the evening. Even myself and Harry, our fitness slots within the studio are 30 minutes long. That only came about because we were doing 10 sessions back to back, and we literally only had time, me and Harry, to do 30-minute sessions. And we were like, well, if it's good enough for us, but I love that the element of the microdosing of 7 minutes, certain movements. It's brilliant. Brilliant. Yeah.
Thank you.
And how can trainers find more about that anyway?
Yeah, they can go to www.7movements.com. So you're all written out like normal English, no abbreviations like we do nowadays. So yeah, just go to that website and you can check it out. And then each one of our programs is a paid for program. So instead of you just getting a membership access, you actually purchase the program and then they follow along with the program. But as the program is rolled out, we did it in a learning content management system. So people will be getting, it's like them taking a course. So we're going to take you through a course on how to be healthy. And so we're calling it Operation Get Healthier. And so the whole thing is driven over the course of a year. You're going to go through 4 phases over that year of getting healthier. But in addition to that, we have other programs that are more driven towards specific environments, such as returning to work. So coming off of an injury at work, working with particular physical therapy, physical therapists and programs driven around physical therapy for return to work, as well as for conditions. We have a moms program as well. So for new moms, so we have a program already driven that way. And then the other part is just age. We call it age proof your body. So those people that are over 55 years old that need to become functional and have preventative approaches to long-term aging, so that they can be healthy for a longer part of their life. So those are some of the programs that we're rounding out right now, and we have more that we're building, and it's pretty exciting because there's so many opportunities that are being thrown at us that we're constantly programming and building and filming and trying to catch up and have all these products ready to go.
And so I guess just lastly on the Singapore and the kind of the government, because you've literally been dealing with a government level side of things. Do you, or have you seen anything that you think the fitness professional could be looking at, and whether it's behavior change, anything that you've seen from Singapore that could potentially help us as fitness professionals guide us through the next kind of 12 months while this pandemic's on?
The one thing that I would say that, and I wasn't over in Singapore doing as much as some of our other colleagues at IOM, but some of the information that was reported back to us was that everything's really culturally driven and customized. So in the case of the folks in Singapore, they're very good at wanting to do multiple things and take on a big load. They are a group of amazing citizens that, for a country that's only an island that's only 40 kilometers by 20 kilometers, there's lots of people that live there, and they have tremendous infrastructure and a tremendous country and just a beautiful country. So they'll make changes really quickly if they see that it's going to benefit the entire country. So the cool part about it is that there's always a group of people that will be driven towards fitness, but then we need to create accessibility for those people that don't like fitness. So the goal has always been, how do we take all these people and get them into doing more movement-based things that they really love? And so if that means building a park that would allow them to come out of the high rises that they live in and come and do some Tai Chi or some just meditation or yoga and things like that, that's a great start. So what they started doing is adding technology into the infrastructure. And so what was really neat is they would have a walking path around a nice park, and then it would have a post with a QR code on it that you could scan your phone to, and it would take you right on your phone through some movements that you could do at that particular post. So those are some neat ways that they're kind of integrating digital offerings into a health ecosystem. The other one that was really cool is one of the folks that oversees Active Singapore. He helped create a digital wallet, which would allow you to basically have your wallet in your phone, and then
Yeah.
you would, when you went to the grocery store, you would just scan your wallet on there, and then you would get rebates for all the healthy food that you ate, right? And then
Brilliant.
those rebates would basically aggregate into a total on here that you could use to pay your utility bills with,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Amazing.
So you're being more proactive at all the health preventative stuff that gives you rewards to be able to pay for all the other things that you need. Now in
Yeah.
Singapore, that's great because it's all run by the government. It's not privatized. So it's easier to be able to do stuff like that. But it was the thought, right? The thought process that they'd be able to ideate a way to have greater incentive for people to take their own health really seriously. And I
Yeah.
think that's where the rest of the world needs to get to, is because we're now going to have to take care of the baby boomer generation.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so if fitness professionals really want to get into working with a group of people, it needs to be with the active older adult population. And so that's
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
I would sense that if you're really looking for an environment of people that are going to really love to get active and be healthy again, first learn how to create movement for those folks.
Yeah.
Do it in shorter bursts, right?
Yeah.
And teach them how to be more functional for longer periods of time in their life. And we created the education for that at Institute of Motion, so you can learn on how to look at the lens through health coaching instead of the lens of fitness.
Yeah.
And then we've also created the programming for the end consumer market with 7 movements. So it's
Yeah.
been an interesting time, because I think COVID has accelerated our perspective on what is possible for us in this industry.
Totally agree.
And instead of being pulled down by the reins of, well, I don't know if I'll have an opportunity to work anymore, there's more opportunity out there than ever before.
No, yeah, I totally agree. I think the main thing that you've kind of touched upon, as we're kind of going to wrap it up, is the retention side of things. You know, even though that was done at a government level, you listening to this, can you incentivize your clients if they've done their steps for the week? If they've done 3 sessions with you that week, do they get another one free? Do you go with them to get the shopping? You know, it doesn't need to be necessarily them paying for their electricity bill, right? We can do more. And as we give more, the retention will kind of stay. And also asking, you know, letting your service, you know, show how good you are, and then obviously getting the referrals going. But cool. No, John, it's been absolutely amazing. How's the rest of your week looking? Are you kind of busy? I'm guessing you're probably busy.
What do we got? I don't even know what day it is anymore. Okay, it's Thursday. So on Thursday, I got some coaching today. Tomorrow night, well, it'll be really late for you guys. We'll have to do an early happy hour. But Dan and I, my partner at 7 Movements, we do a happy hour at 7 p.m. Eastern. You guys would already be in bed, unless you're really having a happy hour.
Yeah,
right?
no, well, but there'll be some of us up.
But if you are, jump on in with us. We do it on Facebook Live. It's on our 7 Movements page, and we have a beer or a couple beer, and we talk basically around things in the industry and what we're doing at 7 Movements, and then what other people are experiencing around the world to do with movements. So we do that every couple of weeks. So we're doing that this Friday. And then, this weekend is actually looking pretty open, which will be the first one. I've only had 1 day off from coaching since March 15th. So it's been crazy.
Okay. Well, then last question before we head off. There's a trainer sat there listening to this now, and it's still, 8 weeks on, is a bit kind of, not sure what to do. What would be the first thing you would say to that trainer to kind of literally get up and start training someone?
The first thing I would do is make contact with all of your people that you've been in contact with your clients, and don't be afraid to be vulnerable, and say, hey, look, I'm trying to jump into a new medium of coaching people online. Would you like to try it with me? Right? Yeah. Try it out. If you like it, you see value in it, we could continue the same programming that we've always done, just on this medium. But don't feel like you can't go out and reach out to these people. This is a relationship that you had with them, right? They're your friends. They're people that, as much as you care about them, they care about you too. And so reach out to them, let them know how you're doing, and let them know that, hey, I've got an opportunity where I think I can continue to coach you. Would you like to give it a shot?
Awesome. All right. Thanks, John. Thanks for joining me. And as always, we'll share a whiskey soon.
I can't wait.
Yeah. All right.
Thanks so much.